When I was 9, Joe Willis tripped me, punched me in the stomach, and said, "You're a fat, ugly Jap." And after that, I wanted nothing to do with my heritage. I didn't even travel to Japan until I was 28. Then in 1982, my husband and I visited Japan. We met our rich cousins on my father's side of the family. They gave us the Tsugawa family tree and our family crest, which had 3 stylized swords and 3 leaves that looked like hearts. Domo arigato gozaimasu. A few days later, my husband and I went to the Jidai Matsuri, a parade with over 2,000 people dressed in period attire. For me, the highlight was the female samurai warrior, Tomoe Gozen. I didn't even know there were female samurai. She was so strong and regal, and her image left a deep impression on me. We returned home and unpacked our goods, my memories, and my Japanese heritage. Until 2007, I was rear-ended the second time in 18 months. I was so messed up, I couldn't think straight. I had chronic fatigue, pain, and reading at a 7th grade level. I was diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, TBI. My new job became physical therapy, vision therapy, massage therapy, speech pathology, chiropractor, neurologist, physiatrist, psychologist, neuropsych, MRI, and brain scans. I endured over 1,000 appointments in order to gain wellness. But I started to think about that female samurai warrior and my Japanese heritage. And I wondered what made the samurai so successful. They lived by the code of Bushido. That code of Bushido is their code of honor, and it includes courage, integrity, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. As I was researching, I saw this familiar image, and I told my husband, look, our family crest is part of the samurai tradition. It is actually one of the 5 main crests of the samurai for feudal Japan. The DNA of that samurai warrior is in me. I knew if that samurai spirit can motivate those warriors, it can motivate me. I set a goal to write a book about the code of Bushido. And I believed that if I could finish this book, I will overcome traumatic brain injury. So every day, with what little brain power I had, I began to write. My brain and my speech started improving. I could think more clearly, and I saw light at the end of the tunnel. When that shipment of books arrived at my house, I thought, yes, that samurai spirit really is a part of me. Now I share the code of Bushido up and down the West Coast with people and tell them about the wonderful code that the samurai live by, and they can live by that too. The code of Bushido can be an anchor in a sea of turmoil and a guide through the maze of life. Yuki is a Bushido concept for courage, bravery of spirit. It took courage for me to endure over 1,000 appointments to overcome traumatic brain injury. Had I quit, I would not have been able to finish the book, nor would I be here with you today. I was blessed to grow up with strong, courageous women for change, and now I will share their stories. My mother, Mabel Tsugawa, was a Nisei, 2nd-generation Japanese American, and my inspiration. I was the 3rd of 6 children. The year was 1957, when my parents purchased a 50-acre farm, quite a difference from life in the city of Portland, Oregon. That makes me a farmer's daughter. Am I your typical farmer's daughter? My mother was a farmer's wife, but she was not born with a green thumb. Her first attempt at gardening was a disaster. She became known around town as the girl from the city, just the opposite of the Beverly Hillbillies. May 18th, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted, spewing over 37 billion cubic yards of ash and rock into the air. Miles of forest devastated. Highways, roads, railways, homes, people, animals destroyed. That same year, they purchased a defunct nursery, which came with dilapidated buildings. It took courage to start a business, especially with the aftermath of the mountain. They discussed their plans for their new nursery, and Mother said, "I can do it." She faced many challenges in her life with guts and determination second to none. A quote by Kobe Yamada. She turned her can'ts into cans and her dreams into plans. End quote. She was so excited about this new venture, she went out and far and wide over the whole countryside to find the finest plants for her nursery. She opened the doors in the spring of 1981, an exciting time for her. During that first week, however, she had a sale one day of only one lonely geranium. Not two, but one. She felt like crying. She wanted to give up, but her honor was at stake. So she persevered. That first year, she only took 3 days off: Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. But the business grew with Mother's tenacity. They purchased the house next door, which had a pool that they converted into a koi pond. They remodeled and added on to the store, and they bought the property across the street to accommodate parking for their growing clientele. The business continued to flourish and prosper through Mother's guidance. And in the spring of 2021, Tsugawa Nursery will celebrate 40 years of business. This is Mother's legacy as a woman for change. In Japan, my paternal grandmother, Kazuno, was married in the early 1900s. However, her husband had a mistress. He refused to give her up, so she divorced him. That might have been a hard thing to do in Japan at that time, because women were not even voting in America in 1917, and divorce wasn't even common for over 50 years. Later in 1917, she became a picture bride to Masaichiro Tsugawa. With stars in her eyes, she traveled on the Pacific Ocean to the port of Seattle and married my grandfather, Mr. Tsugawa. They later moved to the Portland area, and my father was the third of their 7 children. Then in 1937, Grandfather Tsugawa passed away of cancer, leaving his family and the business behind. So Grandmother Tsugawa had a choice. She decided to muster that courage to provide for her family and continue the business. With her limited English and very few business skills, she would ask my father at 14 years old to drive her into Portland to find produce for their stand. And she would say, "Don't worry, Georgie, I'm here and I'll take care of you." In 1941, Pearl Harbor was bombed. This changed everything for the Japanese and Japanese Americans. The family was forcibly removed and sent to Minidoka War Relocation Center in Idaho. 2 sons went off to the Army, while the others were left behind. They left early because she was dying of cancer and needed more medical care. Grandma Tsugawa demonstrated courage by divorcing her husband and continue with the family business, another woman for change. Back in the 1950s, my maternal grandmother, Junko Tachibana, operated the Pomona Hotel in Portland, Oregon. My mother was the second of 5 children. I adored my grandmother. I wanted to see her anytime I could. Finally, one day, my sister and I, at age 5 and 6, were able to visit her. We went to the store next door and picked out our favorite toy. But nobody was around. My grandma had the key, but she left money and a note behind. I'll always remember that. Her honesty made a deep impression on me, and it's still, to this day, I think about it. Grandma and Grandpa Tachibana was scheduled to visit us, and the whole family was so excited, we could hardly wait. Then, all of a sudden, the Greyhound bus appears right in front of our door, and out comes Grandma and Grandpa Tachibana. I thought she was a movie star. Have you ever had the Greyhound bus come to your house and deliver people? She was quite gutsy, bold, and persuasive. By encouraging that Greyhound bus driver, not only encouraging, probably demanding that he stopped in front of our house. Grandma Tachibana, another woman for change. By being an immigrant, entrepreneur, and having the Greyhound bus stop at our house. Remember, courage is not foolhardy, but a determination to overcome circumstances. It is better to try and fail than not try at all. The Japanese have a proverb, fall 7 times and stand up 8. Face your battles with courage, the courage of a samurai. What goals, visions, and dreams do you have? What is your purpose in life? I believe you have greatness inside of you. Tetsuro Shigematsu quotes, "Among the pantheon of warriors, the samurai is surely the greatest." In conclusion, remember my traumatic brain injury and how I overcame it. Mother's challenge was to turn a dilapidated nursery into a garden center, and not only a garden center, Pacific Northwest destination. Grandma Tsugawa's challenge was to live an honorable life. Grandma Tachibana's challenge was to live life to the fullest. All of these challenges took courage, or yuki, to overcome. And yuki is that concept of bravery of spirit. I challenge you to pursue your dreams and visions and never give up. My quote, "The world is waiting for you to unveil your gifts and talents. What are you waiting for?" Remember that Koto-Bushido. It can be your anchor in the sea of turmoil and your guide through the maze of life. Now, become a woman for change, sharpen your sword, and let the journey begin.
Thank you from TEDxMercerIslandHSWomen.